Welcome to Witch Hunt. I'm Josh Hutchinson.
I'm Sarah Jack. Today, we welcome back Dr. Amit Anand and me, Dr. Akanksha Madaan.
In this episode, we learn about the intersection of spiritual belief and gender roles in Hinduism as related to accusations of witchcraft.
Dr. Madaan reveals the origins of witch hunting in India, shedding light on the shadowy beginnings of occult practice on the subcontinent.
She offers some introductory information on Hinduism and goes in depth in her exploration of gender roles and witchcraft accusations.
Dr. Anand compares Indian witch hunting to witchcraft accusations in Africa.
And we find common ground with witch hunts around the world.
Welcome to Witch Hunt, Dr. Akanksha Madaan, and welcome back, Dr. Amit Anand. Hey, Josh.
Hi, Sarah.
We have some important guests today. Thank you for coming. Hello.
Hello, Sarah. Hello, Josh.
Please introduce yourselves and tell us about your professional background.
Okay, before I start with my introduction, I would like to thank both of you for inviting on such a prestigious platform, where today we'll be discussing about most prominent topic around the globe. Talking about myself, I am Akanksha Madaan. I'm from a state called Madhya Pradesh, which is in India. I'm working as an assistant professor of law in Reva University, Bangalore. And I have done my LLB from Devi Ahilya Vishwadhyalaya from Madhya Pradesh and my post-graduation from Nalsar University of Law, which is in Hyderabad. I have also done a PG diploma in victimology and victim assistance from the World Society of Victimology in Tokyo, Japan. Apart from that, I'm currently pursuing my PhD from Gujarat National Law University. I'm also a member of International Advisory Board of Hume Institute of Postgraduation Studies. So this was certain things related to my academic background. Apart from that, mostly I spend my time in practicing the religious activity. Mostly I dedicate my time for meditation and reading about Hinduism scriptures. And this is the reason why I'm here. And this is the reason why this topic has attracted me a lot in regionalism context. So yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Amit Anand. It's the second time that I'm here to talk about a very sensitive issue. I have recently completed my PhD from Lancaster University, and the topic of my thesis was violence against women in India, which was focused around the study of witchcraft practices, honor-based abuse, and temple prostitution. Like Akanksha, I'm also working at Reva University School of Legal Studies as an assistant professor of law. And I'm very excited to be here again, the second time, like I said, to talk about something very close to what I work on. So looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you both for being here. It's wonderful to have you. Today, we're discussing the intersection of spiritual beliefs and gender roles in Hinduism. What do we and our audience need to know about Hinduism before we proceed?
So Hinduism is a kind of religion and nobody knows from when it has started. It is mostly based upon the practices of meditation. It is people are mostly indulged into spiritual activities. We have our work culture is mostly dependent upon a certain culture, which is basically more or less related to dharma. So it's very difficult. Like I am also feeling difficulty to define Hinduism. There's no as such set explanation to that. But it is a known religion around the world.
Is witchcraft in Hindu religious texts?
Okay. Before I come to this question, there is a background which I would like to introduce to you all. Before I start with this concept, I would like to tell that basically we don't have any kind of definition related to witchcrafting or witch hunting. Basically, witchcrafting is made up of two words, Wicca and Witcha, and crafting. Witcha means a witch, and crafting means any kind of skills or ability. Now, by which we mean that mostly it is like dedicated to a women only in Hinduism perspective, and not in Hinduism practice perspective, but in a general sense. In the humanity, mostly this word is being used for women. And this is related to all form of evil practices. So this is a kind of definition, not a definition, this is a kind of explanation. Now, just to focus upon this thing, there are certain characteristics related to this. Just to give you a more clarity upon what is witch hunting, or what, like, who are witches. So mostly it is being believed in Indian society that witches are majorly women. Now, these witches, they have all the power to influence the mind and body of any person. Any person. It also, when I'm saying any person, not only humans, but it also include animals as well. Apart from this, some tribal people or some certain sects of Indians, they also believe that it is somewhere related to spirituality. It is kind of divine. It is kind of mystic. Apart from that, the practices which a witch is following is always negative, always supernatural. Supernatural in the sense that mostly they will use this power to spread disease in a society. They are the reasons for any kind of quarrels in the families. If there's any kind of natural calamities, people will blame these witches only. If there is any kind of bad crop, or agriculture is not working, or every society is facing some kind of issue, then the blame is only on the witches. Apart from that, it's not only every kind of witch. All the tribal will believe that every woman is having potential to be called as a witches, but mostly these practices or such kind of tag has been given to old ladies. For example, why? Because after a certain age, the parents are of no use as per most of the people, because they are like dependent on them. They are not getting anything as such. So there is a common belief. It is not only in Indian context, but in a society, like all form of society, they feel that old or aged parents, they are kind of burdens. So mostly what people will do, they will start calling them witches. They will blame for certain things, and then village head will throw them out of the society. Apart from this, widow women. If a husband dies, and humans have a habit of blaming each other. So they have found out that why not blame women only? Why not blame married women only, or the women whose husband passed away? Apart from that, if any woman, while giving birth, the child of that woman died or not survived, then they will be blaming women only as the witch. Or else, most of the time, they will also tell that there is no asset structure. Mostly, there are spirits who will enter into the women, and these women, they must be having long hair, as depicted in the movies, most of the women's movies, long hair, big nails. So this is a kind of characteristics related to women. Now, coming upon the Hinduism concept. Again, still I'm not coming upon the witchcrafting, giving you a background. When we talk about Hinduism, there is a concept called Tantra. Tantra, for most of the people, it is the most negative form, but that's a myth. It's nowhere related to negativity. When we start with the concept of Tantra, it is mostly being started from, as per the leaders or as per the historians, they states that it is mostly started from the Kashmir region, which is in the northern part of India. And then it is also being found in Eastern India as well. Eastern India, why? Because there is a big temple of goddess Kali with the name of Kamakhya. So there the reproductive parts of the women or goddess is being worshipped by every single person. And that is the best platform where tantras are being practiced in a good manner and sometimes in a bad manner also. Now, the question is from where all these things have started. As per the Hinduism, we believe in worshipping deities. Now, we have near about 30 crores god and goddesses. But these are like certain are on an administrative position, and there are like 3 big gods who are on the highest platform. So first is like Brahma, who is the creator of earth. Second is Vishnu, who is called as the protector. Whereas the third is Shiva, who have the power to destruct everyone. And it is being believed that one day when there will be a lot of negativity in the society, Lord Vishnu will going to destruct everything. This is a belief in Hinduism. in which like Hindus are having. Now, this Tantra practice is being depicted in a form of a script, which is known as this one script with the name of Atharveda, where the Tantras in the form of certain mantras. Mantras are like spells. So these spells are given by Lord Vishnu himself. Now, these spells, when they were given by Lord Vishnu, the intention was only to worship God. I repeat, the intention was only to worship God. See, there are two ways how people worship. So in India, like a normal person, he'll be standing in front of God, doing daily practices, joining hands, doing some basic kind of meditation. That's it. Apart from that, there is a category of people who will leave everything. Like they will disown their family, they will leave at certain stage, they'll go to mountains, they will, get involved into the group of other kind of people who want to achieve salvation as soon as possible. So these people, these souls are practicing such tantras from so many ages. That is what they believe. Now, again, their only intention is good only. The intention is achieve salvation, to worship God. And when I am stating that to achieve salvation, they mean that after attaining salvation, they will be getting opportunity to have a conversation with the God and goddesses themselves. For example, if I have to get involved into this thing, I will be choosing one God. So we have so many options available. Either I'll go with the male god or the female goddess. And then I'll be practicing those mantras only which belong to that particular god. Now, slowly what has happened, now when I use this word tantra, so tantra means a method. So for example, we have various methods to cut a fruit. We'll be using big knife, small knife, etc. Similarly, tantra is a method through which you can choose any kind of method and you can reach to the stage of salvation. But there is one kind of disclaimer that if you are following tantra or if you are chanting those spell words in a positive manner with a good intention, then the success rate is 100%. Now, there was one thing that when these tantras were written down or when these spells were written down, at that time, it was not disclosed to every single human because every person must not be having good intention. Because these tantras or these mantras were having all the power to destruct humanity if you are performing it with a bad intention. Also, there is one disclaimer that you cannot practice by yourself. You have to practice under some teacher who has a well-known knowledge of these mantras. Otherwise, that will going to have a very negative impact on you. But what actually happened when the normal human beings, they got to know that, okay, this is the way how we can attain materialistic thing. They've started, preaching all these mantras. Some under the leadership of certain teachers and some have started practicing by themselves. And some started claiming that we have all the powers which a person will get after chanting those mantras. Now, this is how the witchcrafting or witch hunting comes into picture. Nowhere in the Hindu religion we have stated that this is a kind of practice of women should be blamed liable. There is one thing, every time the women were considered as the most powerful entity in Hinduism. And the example is we are worshipping goddesses on the highest amount. Like if anyone wants to reach on a highest level of salvation, these people will never choose their deities in the form of male god. Instead, they will always go with the goddess. So this is the power. Like in the scriptures, they've stated that how powerful women are. So slowly, what people have started doing, they have started practicing in the wrong forms, which nowadays is called as white magic or black magic. And that is how witch hunting comes into picture. Now, there is a majority, like the major role is comes because of the patriarchal society, the gender-based role. Because men wanted to show power above the women, they have started blaming them as the witches. Now, again, I'll come back upon this particular topic, starting that how witch hunting has been noticed in India. So there was this actually started noticing from the revolt of 1857 when India was not independent. So there was a first mass witch hunting has happened in the tribal community. Now during 1857, so we have a very big revolt of 1857 where the first freedom fight of independence has started. At this time, during the colonial time, multiple administrators, like the colonial administrators, they were noticed that there are certain kind of witch hunting practices happening in certain tribal areas. So they have started finding like who all are involved in such practices. Slowly they have noticed that there is an area known as Chota Nagpur Plateau. In this Chota Nagpur Plateau, there are two kinds of tribe and majorly kinds of tribe known as Santhan tribes and Singhbum tribes. Still, every member of Santhal tribe, in 21st century also, every member of Santhal tribes believes in witch hunting or believes in witches. They still believe that if something is going off record, something which is not known to humans, something which is like unexpected, that definitely there is a possibility witches are involved. They still believe that. Now, what they have done, they have, spread an information that witches are against the Britishers and witches also wanted freedom, which was like a myth because there are two categories. One are the witch hunters, so we can call them as the doctors of witches, and the other stakeholders are the witches themselves. So mostly they are the women. Now, witch hunters, they can be in any form. For example, there is possibility that they have the real knowledge of exorcism or magic, but there is possibilities who are self-declared witch hunters, and there are multiple names given to them. A most common name is Ojha. So these people, they can claim that we are the Ojhas, we know how to cure witches. And just because they doesn't want anyone to stop their own business, because they used to get a lot of reputation in the village, because they are the protectors of the village. So they have just spread the wrong information that witches are also against the Britishers and they also want freedom. Definitely that was not there. So what happened, like talking about the Santhal community, so I think I have answered your question. So this was the relevance how there is no relevance in Hinduism related to witch hunting, and witch hunting is not religion bias. It's like in every religion, this particular practices are available, but in one or the other form. There are certain experts who have stated that it's just because people are not educated, they are not wise enough to understand the use of available knowledge. And that is why certain religion or certain practices are being misunderstood in a negative form. So witch hunting has no relevance in the Hinduism, but a wrongful way of practicing those things has evolved the concept of witch hunting.
Great. Thank you so much for that thorough explanation. Really appreciate that. Now, how do spiritual beliefs intersect with gender roles within Hinduism?
Yes. Now, again, before that, I would like to explain how multiple communities has, showcased this particular kind of culture. So, as I have mentioned about Santhal community. Santhal community is also involved in 21st century. Also, Santhal community is also involved in various acts of witch hunting. So basically what happened, they believe that there are three categories of witches. Not basically witches, but there are three categories of people. For example, first is witch hunters, or the which also involve witches. So there are doctors who are curing category of humans who are being considered as witch. Second category is bongas. Bongas means spirits. Spirits who does not have any kind of physical form. They're just soul. They are not, they can convert, they can enter into some human body, but they does not have any kind of form. And the third category, they have stated that ancestors spirits. Ancestor spirits means when any ancestors passed away, so this is a common practice in India. When our ancestors passed away, then once in a year, we have to do some offerings to them. Earlier, it was in the form of in the form of living beings, but now usually we offer them food. So during a particular part of time, Santal community believe that we have to impress these ancestors. If they are not impressed by our activities, then there is possibility there will be a lot amount of natural calamity which can destroy a village. So they will do certain kind of offerings. Second category which I have mentioned is Bongas. Bongas, Santal community believe that there are the protectors of village also. But if they are the protectors of village, we need to offer them something. But because they are not in a human form and they have no attachment with the materialistic things, so they believe that certain prayers should be involved. Now again, there is a patriarchy thing coming into the picture. How patriarchy thing coming into picture? These prayers should only be performed by the men. Not a single woman can be involved in such prayers. Why not a single woman can be involved in such prayers? Because they believe that, the tribal community believe that women are impure. Because they go through menstruation cycle, they reproduce kids, so they are impure. So not even a single time they cannot involve into the practices. Now, how to impress these bongas? Either you have to sacrifice life of a goat, or if they are still not happy, you have to sacrifice life of a buffalo. Now coming upon the third category, which is definitely the witches or witch hunters. So basically what they have done is, there are a certain category of people who can protect the whole village from the witches. Mostly it is in the hands of village priests. Normally what village priests will do, they will put iron rods in the territory of the village, and they will spell certain mantras. And they believe that after spelling certain mantras, the witches will never enter into your territory. Now, after that, they have also divided this magic or black magic. Basically, there are two ways. First is white magic and black magic. Black magic always belongs to a woman because it's a patriarchal form of society. White magic, they have always given the category of white magic to men. Now, when I'm saying white magic, it is related to men because men are the people who are involved into witch hunters. So witch hunters comes into the category of white magic. They will not only protect the village, but they will also cure multiple type of disease. Now, giving you an example in the 21st century, there is a place in Assam called as Mayong district. I believe it's a district, yes. So which is like 40 kilometers away from Guwahati. So there are so many documentaries made on them. They have set up a proper research institute in Mayong. This research institute has collaborated with multiple research centers around the globe. Now, the people who are there, they teach you how to do black magic or white magic. So they also teach you how to do exorcism. Now, the people around the globe, they go there if they are interested in learning all such things, they will go there and they will learn it. But these people, they have started claiming that hundreds years back, we used to do black magic or we used to teach black magic in a negative form. But right now, we have stopped doing this because of certain strict laws. And the community will never favor it. So 100 years back, they have stated that they have certain mantras which can convert a human into an animal. Up to this extent, they have done it. They have stated that most of the time the witches were only the women. But with the increase in interest in certain part of India, the women also have started becoming the witch hunters apart from men. But coming back to the Santal community believes that only the man can be witch hunters and only the women can be witches. So now women were always involved into black magic because black magic was associated to the evil things, whereas the men were always considered as the protector. The gender role comes into picture. So now these ojhas or these witch hunters, they believe that every single woman has the capacity to become witches. So they usually call them as Dians. Apart from that, the reason what I have understood is The reason why all such practices were so common because majorly what used to happen, like suppose these Santhal people, they used to believe that if there is any kind of disease in a family, or if husband and wife are fighting, the reason is women. Now they have started calling them as the witches. If people are not happy in the family, the reason is women. They've started calling them as the witches. If there is a new kind of disease introduced, because at that time there were so many new diseases got introduced, and we cannot say that these diseases are spreading because of the humans. These diseases are existing since the time humanity is existing, and definitely the humans might have done lot of impacted on climate, and that is why we are facing all such issues. But the men in these tribal societies, they have started blaming women. So what they have done is, if any child or if any person is sick for more than 2 days, they will take those people to the witch hunters. Even in such scenarios also, they are not taking them to the hospitals. And if the condition is becoming worse, they will blame the women, and the women will be thrown out of the society. But it's not like the first thing they'll be doing, throwing out of the society. First, they will check whether the woman is a witch or not. How they are going to check? They will ask them to stand on a hot pan, because they believe that a witch will not feel any kind of pain if she is standing on a hot pan. They will also put red chilies in the eyes of women. If she is a witch, she will not going to feel irritation. She's not going to feel any kind of pain. The third form is they will, they will tie a woman with a big rock and they will throw her into a river. And if she is able to swim around, then there is a possibility she is a witch. And if she is dead, she was a normal human being. So they don't care about their life at all. The main intention is to check whether they are witches or not. So this was the reason how Central community have a belief on witches. Now, apart from that, the issue was all the Britishers have made so many strict laws on witches, but there were no as such reported cases. Why? Because the village head and the people of the village, including the family members of the victims, they believe that this should be eradicated. If Britishers started arresting the witches, then there is possibility that wheresoever witches are sitting, they have all the power to control that particular village. So the only solution they have is first throw them out of the village, but still after throwing them out of the village, still the impact is growing. The negative impact is still going in the village. They will choose them to kill. So it's like a murder which is eventually happening. Now, when I have started talking about ojhas, so there is a category. Ojhas means the witch hunters. So they are also called as shamanism. Shamanism means a kind of people who can do exorcism. Now, there is possibility they might be learning. Now, how they are learning? It's not necessary that every time these people are learning the black magic. Tribals believe that either they will be, born like with those powers, or they will go to a particular teacher. They will learn all these things because they want to eventually protect their village. And the third possibility is they will just claim themselves as the witch hunters. So they will just put 1 or 2 clues and the villagers will start believing, because at that time the villagers people were so innocent. Whosoever is stating whatsoever thing, they used to believe in that. Science was not much developed and there was a huge patriarchal form thing going on. So if the men of the village is stating something, people have to believe that. Apart from that, certain ojhas, they have started claiming that they saw certain god or goddesses in their dream. And those god or goddesses are giving them the responsibility that go and protect your village. It is also being found in the research that multiple people used to bribe ojhas or the witch hunters to call a particular woman as the witches. So I'll give you just one example. So there was recent news like 7-8 years back in Jharkhand. So basically Jharkhand is known as the capital of witch hunting. Most of the witch hunting practices happen in Jharkhand. So what happened? There was a man whose name was Guru, and he was found out of police station. He was carrying a head of a woman, and he was holding that head, just the head part, with her hair. And he has told to the police officer, when police officer has asked who has killed her, he stated that she's my sister-in-law and have killed him. Now they were like, why you have done this? And then you're surrendering also. He said, I wanted to protect myself and she's a witch. Now the police officer has asked, why do you think she's a witch? He simply stated one thing, that there are 3 male members in their family. So he was the youngest one. So the first eldest brother, when the women got married, after few years, the first eldest brother, he got some fever. Within 24 hours, he passed away. After 2-3 months, the second eldest brother, who was the husband of this woman, he also got similar kind of disease. In 24 hours, he also passed away. Now this Guru, the accused, he was so scared that the similar thing was going to happen with him also, because nothing was happening to the women. So one day when women was involved into her normal routine work, he has just attacked on the women and he has cut her throat with the help of small razor. And then he has carried her head so that he believed that there is possibility that if she's a real witch, the head might get again back to the body. There is possibility. So he was not even leaving that head. There were so many journalists who were taking the interview, and this man was giving nice pictures, carrying head in one hand. Later on, there were so many activists who has taken his interview. He was like, I just wanted to protect my life and coming generation. So that is why I have killed the reason behind all these deaths. So this is like one of the kind of story. Now coming back, coming upon what is the real problem? So basically, when I was talking, although I was talking about Santhal community, there was a clarity which I should like to give you, that the Santhal community where women were much more empowered. Empowered means they were good in harvesting, they were good in fishing, they were good in cultivating, they were good in hunting as well. Even they had the option to choose their husband and abandon their husband, which is right now, it's a difficult thing. 21st century also, although the laws are very strict, but the families will create a huge amount of sin if you want to leave your husband or abandon your husband. At that time, it was like very common. A kind of huge power was given in the hands of Santhal community. But slowly, the men of Santhal tribe, they started feeling less empowered. They're like, no, we live in a patriarchy form of society where women are more than us. And because the neighborhood tribes also and the neighborhood region also used to appreciate Santhal women, so the men, they started blaming women as the witches. They started telling that these women are having a lot of power, they can do anything, so they are the witches. So that is how the patriarchy has overpowered the empowered women. So slowly, the gender role has come into picture. Now, because of this, the women position has become more worst. Just to add on, so this was like one tribe I have told you. But there are certain places in India where the similar kind of things are being practiced. For example, when we talk about the central India or eastern India. So here, like in Santhal tribe, the men was only having the rights to perform witch hunting. But when we talk about central India or eastern India, here the women also have the right to perform witch hunting. Recently, I was watching one interview. Now, in this, there were women, like 3-4 women, who were learning these techniques of witch hunting. Now, the interviewer has asked that what is the need of learning all these things in 21st century? They stated that either these women were widow or these women were thrown out of the families. They simply stated that there is possibility one day our own village people will going to call us as the witches. So it's better to control all the power and tell them and declare that we are the witch hunters. So there's no possibility that we are going to be the witches. So this is a reason that recently women has also started learning all these things, because still in India, there are certain kinds of tribes where a proper education has not been given. It's not like the government is not doing so, but they have their own barriers. The society have their own cultural barriers, which will not allow women to, have a proper education. They have certain kind of restriction. Because of this, women are getting involved into such practices. Now, there is a place called Bastar. Earlier, Bastar belongs to my state, but now my state got divided into two parts. So now the Bastar has moved into state of Chhattisgarh. So when we talk about the area of Bastar, like the Bastar people, the tribal people of Bastar, they believe that mankind can be destructed through three ways. First is the men themselves can destruct the humanity. Second is, if you are going to believe in the concept of witches, the witches definitely will going to destruct the society. And the third is evil eye. It's not always about the witch hunting, but it was also about evil eye as well. So it's not necessary that the witches are only having an evil eye. But if any person who is not happy with the progress of any family, and if that person has a woman in their family, so they will definitely declare them as the witches, because because their family is just having an evil eye on the other person. And evil eye is the most common thing, which is like in every society right now. Also, we all believe in evil eye concept. So they believe that this is one of the concerns. Now, in the Bastar society, or talking about the central India, women was also having a lot of control. So here there was no as a gender neutral in the context of witch hunting. Like every person, either men or a woman, can become the witch hunters. But the mode how they can become witches was a bit different, because men does not used to go through every single kind of practice. Compared to women, when they want to become witch hunters, they have to follow certain different kind of practice. For example, if any woman wants to be a witch hunter, she needs to eat the flesh of her own child. So this is also there. This was also used to be there in certain tribal communities, just to gain the more power. So they believe that if you want to attain highest amount of power, you have to go through this. Men never done this. If you want to attain more power, drink the blood. It can be the blood of animal, the blood of human, anything. So also these women, they used to learn all these things during nighttime only, because nighttime there will not be any kind of people roaming here and there. And they believe that the negative thing is like more during nighttime compared to the daytime. Now, there is also one more reason that why women were only born as the witches, because in certain communities of India, it used to be believed that because women have to go through their menstruation time, still the grandmothers also tends to their kids that when you are going through your menstruation cycle, don't step out. Don't open your hair. Don't step out at 12 p.m. Don't step out exactly at 3 p.m. Either you go out at 12:55 or 3:05, but not exactly at 3 or 12. Because there is possibility, if your soul is weak, any spirit can enter into your body. And they have always stated that this is mostly with the women only. Why? Because women go through their menstruation cycle. So they call them as that during your menses, there is possibility your energy is very weak. So any spirit can enter into your body. So these are certain restrictions which are still there, still in every family. In most of the families, still, majority of the families still believe in all such concepts. Now, the reason why all such things are there, because they don't believe in the psychological aspect. That is why they have misunderstood the every concept. Apart from that, these women in central India who wanted to become witches, they have to sacrifice goats, buffaloes. At times, they have to sacrifice kids also. Now, when I am stating that everywhere the gender role is involved, men were never called as the witches. But in certain aspects, they were considered as witches. For example, if there is a women witch, which is being supported by a man, means a man is protecting that woman witch from the society, then the villagers will also call that man as witch. So this is the reason when most of the women, mothers were called as witches, their own kids, their own family, their own husbands will never protect them. And it was very easy for villagers to throw them out or to kill them. Now, if you come to if you see most of the houses of Indian society in India, most of the houses or on shops, you'll be seeing that there are certain remedies to protect themselves from the evil eye, which is certain remedies we still use. For example, we will hang chilies and lemons on our gate so that nobody can have an evil eye. If there is a newly constructed building, we're going to put the mask of demons so that there is no evil eye, which can damage the society. So these are certain examples. Apart from that, I'll tell you one very interesting story. So there is a place called Arunachal Pradesh. Uh, so years back, 100, 200 years back, they have started noticing the practice of witch hunting. Earlier, it was not there. But after, there was this society called Khampi Society. So what happened basically, there was this kingdom known as Takasu Kingdom, which was owned by a king. So this kingdom was settled on the bank of Travadi River. So there was this king, he was just roaming nearby on the banks of the river, and he noticed that there is a very beautiful gold flower floating in the river. Now, he went back and he was just thinking about that flower only. He started, when he was thinking about the flower, he started imagining that when I have noticed that flower has come through a river water only. It was floating. So there is possibility that this flower might be available in the nearby kingdom. So he has decided that he has ordered his soldiers that go to all the neighboring kingdoms and check from where this flower is coming. Now, soldiers have found that in their own neighboring kingdom, there was a tree which was made up of diamonds, the branches was of diamonds, and the flowers was of gold. They've come back, they have told that, okay, this kingdom is having, and he realized that kingdom belonged to his own cousin. So now he cannot ask he cannot ask for that tree from his own cousin. Otherwise, there will be a impact on his own reputation that how can a cousin can ask about such things. So what he did, he has taken help of these witches, and he has ordered that why don't you make a bird with the help of bamboo and mostly with the help of bamboos and clay. So by using black magic, these people, they have created a beautiful bird. Now they have bring life to the bird with the help of bird which was made up of bamboo with the help of black magic. Now they have asked the bird to go and stay in that particular kingdom. This bird only used to stay on that particular diamond tree. One day, the bird was looking for food. It did not got any kind of food. So eventually, bird started eating the kids of that kingdom. So the king got very worried that how can a bird eat our children? So they have made a plan and somehow they have killed the bird. But what happened when the parents whose kids were killed by the bird, when the king has ordered to kill the bird and when the bird was dead, these family members has ate all the flesh of the bird. Just in their revenge. But eventually what happened? All the people who have ate the flesh of the bird, they have converted into witches. So the king has ordered that kill everyone who has become witch. Find out who are the witches and kill everyone. But the people believe that, the Khamti society, they believe that there were so many witches. Before they were being killed, they have passed their own knowledge to the other, to their children and grandchildren. So still these witches are existing in this part of India. So this is one of the story. So, yeah.
Yes. I just come in here to just perhaps try and draw some parallels to what Akanksha said. Now, what I'm going to say is going to be very brief about Africa, not just any particular community they're in, but Africa as a continent on the whole. And this is also going to be a bit far removed from religion as such. Now, most of the research that's been done around Africa or in Africa, either by people in Africa or elsewhere, it's mostly with respect to the discourse on the understanding of what is witchcraft or witchcraft accusation, or why do witch killings happen as such. Now, religion, for quite some time, we have heard Akanksha talk about religion and what that means, especially in the Indian setting. But when you look at Africa, there are several factors that come into picture when we try and understand what is witchcraft or what does a practice like that do to a society like Africa. Now, most Africans or most scholars in Africa and elsewhere believe that witchcraft or witchcraft accusation is a mode of explanation. It's something about perception and interpretation, which these people use, or rather rely on to understand their problems or the events, even nature, and sometimes even reality. When reason, regardless of the fact that reason and common sense would suggest otherwise. So they believe like witches can cause poverty, diseases, accidents, famine, earthquake. Now, all of this, which Akanksha already said, that these are some of the things that are common world over, and we see a lot of this happening in India, in Africa, and even elsewhere, earlier in Europe, and also there have been instances in Australia and Southeast Asia. Now, when we talk about, obviously there are things like mysticism and power and all of these things, not solely religion, but it's a matter of fact of perception. We also come across certain similarities, for instance, the use of good magic and bad magic and what they are. If you look at literature in Africa, you will come across, especially literature on witchcraft accusations, you will come across terms like spiritism, magic, taboo, and how significant these are and what kind of roles they play in not only understanding what is witchcraft, but also the fact that people who are engaged in this and also what victims go through. So if you tend to talk to them, you will come across them using such terms. So the use of spirits, the use of magic or mystical power, a lot of it relying on stories, on folklore, not particularly on religion, because the society there is far more complex, but then similarities with respect to who is going to be a witch, and which again always ends up being a woman. But you have the other concept of the witch doctor, and sometimes they are referred to as sorcerers. So you have sorcerers on one hand and witches on the other. And the issue being that witches are, obviously, they are women who then somehow found themselves using black magic, or rather, if they have the knowledge, then passing down the knowledge to somebody else. But you have sorcerers on the other hand, who are mostly male and who use good magic to cure diseases, to help out the society, and to identify these witches and fight with them. So in terms of understanding what witchcraft accusation is, or how does it start, and especially, all of this is again region specific, but there are certain similarities, not everything within it. So the use of magic, who's going to be a witch, how she is going to be treated, and what sort of ordeal she has to go through in order to then prove her innocence. At least as far as these things are concerned, there are commonalities, but my point being that it's, again, at the end of the day, it's more about perception. It's more about interpretation than it is about being associated with one single factor. Every factor is important, but then relying on one single factor might make us not look at the larger picture in terms of understanding what the practice entails and how do we stop it. It's obviously, in terms of who the accuser is and who gets accused, it's common. It's almost common everywhere. But even in Africa, when you look at who a sorcerer is going to be and who is a witch, there is, in at least some scholars believe that there is a very thin line when it comes to these two concepts. So sometimes they say that some literature points out that even a woman can be a sorcerer and a witch can be a man, but large idea being the fact that the witch is always going to be a woman and a sorcerer is also always going to be a man who's having separate roles based on who they are and what kind of magic they tap into. So the only point that I'm trying to make is that yes, religion is an essential factor. It's a factor everywhere, even in societies that do not very religiously look at religion as something that might possibly contribute to practices like this. But then if you try and look behind the curtain, you will understand that stories or uh, notions or beliefs that have been traveling from one generation to the other might find the roots in religion 100%, at least to a significant amount. And then in such cases, it becomes important for us to look at religion in whatever form it's existing in whichever society. And then also take into consideration the fact that there could be other factors as well. Patriarchy, as Akanksha mentioned, that it's a very big factor here in India. And so that could be another thing. There could be several other hidden issues that have not been yet uncovered, but might be playing a significant role in the understanding of the practice. So religion, religious beliefs, the understanding of magic and mysticism, whether they are found in religion themselves or are a subset of, say, religion or religious practices, becomes, I mean, obviously these are complex ideas. It's very difficult to understand them, but nevertheless, they are interconnected and interlinked. And without understanding one, it's very difficult to get to the other one. So yes, it is about perception. Yes, it's about interpretation. But then it's also about communities and people within communities. And every community then obviously tends to believe differently about what they practice and how they practice. So it's more about it's obviously about giving justice to the women that survives, which obviously is not in most cases. But then it's also about fighting belief systems of communities. They might be rooted in religion or something else, but the need of the hour being that you need to not only identify every issue, but talk at length about what these issues are. So obviously today we are spending a lot of time talking about religion and talking about how far Hinduism has contributed or has not contributed. So similarly, the plan has to be about to tackle one issue at a time and then see if at all we are doing it the right way or are we missing out in terms of our perception and interpretation. So within the African context or within several communities in Africa, although obviously they are not similar in terms of their culture and language, but overall, they have very much been affected by this particular practice. And if you look at reasons, there might be 10, 15 reasons, but there are common grounds even there. There is the use of magic. There is the bifurcation of good versus bad magic, which we find similarly here in India. So in terms of solutions or in terms of making policies work on the ground, perhaps even if we ignore geographical boundaries, just by focusing on common factors, we could take a very good step in terms of trying and reaching out in terms of figuring out solution. But again, all of that has to be kept in mind that these are different places, different people, different communities. So a solution that works well here might not necessarily work out there, but could be a blueprint for something that might work in a different geographical setting. So just that point about perception and interpretation, when we move away from one community in one geographical setting to the other. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you so much. I find the similarities are there across cultures and geographical areas and through time as well. the European witch trials and North American witch trials had a lot of this gender breakdown where men could do the white magic and that was fine, but then women getting involved in magic, that was very bad. And women, most of them had nothing to do with any kind of magical practice, got swept up in this wave. And another thing there is, you had mentioned earlier how if the husbands defended their wives, then the husbands would also get accused. And we've seen that with witch hunts in Connecticut and Massachusetts, here in New England, the same thing where the husband or son or other male relative gets caught up, but only after the woman is first accused. So I just wanted to say those similarities, it's not just a matter of one religion or one culture. It's everywhere, almost universal, it seems.
I just want to add on to you, Josh, as you have mentioned that it's not about about a particular religion. What I believe is that it's nowhere related to any religion. It's a loophole in the mind of humans.
Yes.
And that is why, just to show our power upon a woman, we are involved into all such things. It's nowhere related to religion, nowhere related to spiritual practices. It's all about the dirty things which we have in our mind just to establish a control over it. You might be thinking that why police officers and all such people or the administrators are not getting involved in such practices. The thing is, there are so many misconceptions that even the officers are also scared that what if they are going to involve into such activities and something will going to happen on their own family because of lack of education, because of so many factors. So just to conclude that the Hinduism is having like no relationship or no religion is having any kind of relationship with the witch hunting. It's all about the humans and their perspective. The only thing how we can cure this kind of thing is definitely it will going to take many years. Strict laws not only will going to help, but we have to spread a kind of awareness to everyone. We have to tell that science is giving them many solutions to their own problems. It's not only about what they're thinking by themselves. We have to aware them about climate change, about the introduction of newly disease and all such things. So, yeah, so there are, as Amit sir has mentioned, there are so many attributes to this particular cause. So we just need to cure one by one, and that will definitely going to take a lot of time. So it's like you have to come together, and then only we can come upon or we can eradicate completely from every single society.
Good.
Yes, just one last point, which Akanksha just mentioned about. Again, this again ties in with the fact that about there not being essential distinctions when we look at concepts or rather ideas. So what might be natural to me might appear to be the supernatural for you. Something that's personal to you might be impersonal to me. Ideas about religion or secularism and all of these things. But what's common is the human being in all of this. So essentially a human being is then the focal point of this anthropocentric, experience-oriented universe. So we can't just take away the person away from these complexities and ideas. He or she is obviously going to be a part of a larger group of related people. So, and within all these complexities, you then have these different ideas that every now and then get rooted in in either existence of good or evil, and then you have notions coming out of them, or rather people who then tap into the ideas of good and evil and talk about controlling spirits or sorcerers or witches, wizards, and in some ways ancient taboos and all of that. So our ideas that we hold close to now, in modern times, when they tend to clash with these larger concepts and which themselves are not very well defined. And we now are trying to learn about them, things that have happened in the past and have continued to happen even during modern times. When we try to learn about them now in the present, it becomes very difficult. There's a lot of friction that happens, and more often than not, this friction doesn't necessarily give us the answer that we hope for. So, given all differences, given the differences of what's natural and what's unnatural or supernatural, and how do we whether we say something is wrong or whether we turn away from it, all of that is again person oriented and experience oriented. But in the end, the focal point being that it still is resulting in a very grave violation of rights, half the population of the world. And that's something that cannot be denied by any logic or any understanding of any factor, any religion or whatsoever. So the fact, this is something that for a very long period of time has also troubled the UN, that when we are trying to talk about or rather recognize practices like this that are happening in the world, who is to be blamed and who do we actually point fingers towards? There is no one person or an entity who is responsible for such a thing. It's different factors, and there is no understanding of factors among the larger group. So if we are sitting down to draw a list, we don't even know where to start and what to exclude. And this is a problem why there is no definition of what witch hunting or witchcraft accusation is. The definitions or the understanding depend on the practices that have happened in reality. And this is a very big challenge at the moment. But given all of this, it still ends up in violating rights. It still ends up being a human rights violation. And when we sit and talk in a platform like this, and we talk about what could be responsible and what could not be responsible, we should not forget the fact that at the end of the day, it's about giving justice to the one who has somehow survived, which is obviously not in most of the cases. So in the end, how well are we able to then, in some ways, help the law work on the ground, given the complexity of this very, very difficult issue that has plagued not just one continent, but several continents, and is still continuing to do so. So that's one final point about not forgetting about the law and how best we can make sure that it works well on the ground.
Thank you both so very much. This has been very informative. I've learned a great deal. I'll learn more when I edit this, hear it again. It's just amazing conversation. So I really appreciate both of you.
Mary Louise Bingham is back with a Minute with Mary.
Sarah Good did not behave as a typical colonial woman as expected in 1692. She was a brash, opinionated, pipe-smoking woman who spoke harshly when she didn't get her way. People always knew where they stood with Sarah in a time when women were to be seen and not heard. But neither of her husbands lived up to what was expected of them as well. Sarah's first husband, Daniel Poole, racked up debt, which was not repaid at the time of her second marriage to William Good, even though Sarah sold off Daniel's small estate to defray that debt after his death. William was a laborer who could not provide for his family, let alone repay what Sarah owed to her previous debtors. These circumstances rendered the Good family homeless in 1692, which put Sarah and her two daughters in peril. In addition, William may have wanted to control Sarah's natural spicy behavior, but couldn't, which is evident when he told the judge at her pretrial hearing in 1692 that she was an enemy of all that was good. Her own husband, failing to do his duty to protect his family, and by his dreadful words, was a key factor that led to Sarah's death. The men in Sarah's life failed to protect her and her spirit was all she had.
Thank you, Mary.
Now here's Sarah with this week's edition of End Witch Hunts News.
End Witch Hunts is the nonprofit organization affiliated with our podcast, and this is a word from our nonprofit. Our vision is a world without witch hunts, where all victims are exonerated, modern victims and their families receive justice, and tribute is paid to past victims. Let's finish today's episode reflecting on respectful memory. Connecticut's witch trial history remains unmonumented at the state level, with the notable exception of some of the local community efforts that honor the individuals who suffered under these historical injustices. The state of Connecticut has not created a dedicated memorial or monument for the witch trial history of the Connecticut colonies, but there are some communities who have dedicated memorial bricks or plaques to individual victims. There are over a dozen towns in the state of Connecticut who have witch trial heritage. In the town of Windsor, you can go to the flagpole near Town Hall, and among the personalized bricks is a memorial brick for Alice Young and one for Lydia Gilbert. These two Windsor women were sentenced to hang for alleged witchcraft by the Hartford Court. On May 25, 2023, Connecticut's General Assembly passed legislation absolving by name 34 witch trial victims of Connecticut. The anniversary of Alice Young's execution is May 26, 1647. She has multitudes of descendants and many dedicated advocates who pay tribute to her with their genealogy research, social media posts, writing, and visiting her brick. You will often find white roses left for Alice and Lydia. As we approach the anniversary of Alice Young's execution, we invite you to join us in remembrance. By paying tribute through genealogy research, social media engagement, or simply by leaving a white rose at the memorial brick, you help ensure that Alice Young and all those unjustly accused of witchcraft are not forgotten. Share your tributes with us so together we can continue to honor and remember the legacy of those affected by the witch trials in Connecticut.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to Witch Hunt.
Join us every week.
Have a great today and a beautiful tomorrow.